So read. Okay.
Yes.
Then
Our fundamental cognition of the absolute, our substantial spiritual experience of it is the intuition or the direct experience of an infinite and eternal existence, an infinite and eternal consciousness, an infinite and eternal delight of existence. In overmental and mental cognition, it is possible to make discrete and even to separate this original unity into three self-existent aspects. For we can experience a pure, causeless, eternal bliss so intense that we are that alone. Existence, consciousness seems to be swallowed up in it, no longer ostensibly in presence, a similar experience of pure and absolute consciousness and a similar exclusive identity with it is possible, and there can be two alike identifying experience of pure and absolute existence. But to a supermind cognition, these three are always an inseparable trinity. Even though one can stand in front of the others and manifest its own spiritual determinants, for each has its primal aspects or its inherent self formations, but all of this together are original to the twin absolute. Love, joy, and beauty are the fundamental determinants of the divine delight of existence. And we can see at once that these are of the very stuff and nature of the delight of that delight. They are not aligned impositions on the being of the absolute or creations supported by it, but outside it. They are truth of its being, native to its consciousness, power of its force of existence. So, two is it the fundamental determinants of the absolute consciousness, knowledge, and will. They are truths and powers of the original consciousness force and are inherent in its very nature. This authenticity becomes still more evident when we regard the fundamental spiritual determinants of the absolute existence. Real power necessary for postulates for all its self-creation or manifestation. Self, the divine, the conscious being, Atman, Ishvara, Purusha.
yeah. Okay, it's a very small para, not a very big one, and we will have a little bit of a English lesson also in this paragraph. There are two words there which need to be looked into. So I'll do one thing. I'll tell you briefly what he is saying in the para, and then we look at it in detail. Okay, basically what he's saying here in this para. Not much. It's very simple. This supreme reality. In the previous para, you remember, he has said that when we are looking for the origin of existence and all, we find that it is in the supermind. Okay? So that's the thing. So this supreme reality is a supermind, or even higher than that, because Satchidananda. So this supreme reality, which is the origin of everything, is a Satchidananda, which can be experienced separately in the spiritual ranges between the higher mind and the overmind. So in our normal condition, we have absolutely no knowledge of Satchidananda. We see the physical world and we think it is real. When you make your mind silent and go to the spiritual planes of consciousness, higher mind, element mind, intuitive mind, over mind, you can experience Satchidananda separately. That's what he's saying. In other words, you can experience Ananda only. Many yogis feel a tremendous Ananda. Okay? Or you can feel that you are in a field of consciousness alone, or you may feel that you are in a power is there in you, okay, all separate, or even Sat, okay. And Srimati is saying that these are the original indeterminates. Sat, what Sat produces as determinates, what Chit Shakti produces as determinates, what Ananda, which is the indeterminate, produces determinates. This is what he is saying, okay. So the supreme reality is Satchidananda, which can be experienced separately in the spiritual ranges between the higher mind and the overmind. Then, but in the supermind, all the three are really one and not separate. They imply each other and they are absolutely one. It's a substance which is fully conscious of itself, and it's also got the power to do what it wants, and it enjoys what it is doing. So Ananda Now, Srimad is saying Ananda, when it comes down to the physical world, it creates determinates. What does it do? It creates love, joy, and beauty. Okay, this is very clear. They are all almost the same thing, but they are associated with each other. Love, joy, and beauty always go together, but they are separate. In the physical world, you can have joy, but you may not have love. You may have love, but you may not see any beauty anywhere. Or you see the beauty alone and you may not fall into love. Okay, so these are things everywhere. So Ananda itself is indeterminate and it produces determinates of love, joy and beauty. What about Chit? Chit determines itself into knowledge and will. Okay. Will also is a form of knowledge. Okay. Knowledge and will. And that knowledge can be also further down. It can become scientific knowledge, spiritual knowledge, knowledge of chemistry, knowledge of physics. It can multiply itself into infinite determinates. Then, what about Sat? Okay. So saying Sat is a substance. What does it determine itself into? It becomes Self, Purusha, Ishvara. Okay. So this is what is saying in the paragraph. Now we can look. So in other words, Satchidananda in the spirit, in the supermind is one, but when it comes down, it becomes separate, and you can experience them separately without. That's exactly what happened to Srivendra also in Baroda. When he silenced his mind, he was experiencing the Sat, Chit and Sat. He was experiencing a plane of consciousness which is absolutely static, but there was no Ananda for him. Maybe there was no power also. He doesn't mention that, but there was a power. Later on it came. Okay, he says. But there was absolutely no Ananda at all for him in the beginning. But it can come for other people. Okay, so depends on the individual nature. So now we go back to the beginning of the and read what he's saying and see whether we can understand the language. Okay, our fundamental cognition of the absolute, cognition, knowledge, recognition of the absolute. Our substantial spiritual experience of it is the intuition or the direct experience of infinite and eternal existence. It can be only existence, that means substance, or it can be an infinite and eternal consciousness, or it can be an infinite and eternal delight. Separately, you can experience all these things. Very rarely do you experience all of them as one in the spiritual planes of consciousness. Okay. In overmental and mental cognition, it is possible to make discrete and even to separate this original unity into three self-existent aspects. The word discrete means to separate. Discretion is you utilize your judgment and make a distinction between various things that seem to merge and become one. Okay, discretion. Use your judgment and understand what is what. So discrete means to make a separation. Here it means. And what are you separating? Satchidananda you are separating into Sat, Chit and Ananda. And where does this happen? In the spiritual planes of consciousness. Very, very clear. Okay. So this is what he's saying. In overmental and mental cognition, it is possible to make discrete and even to separate the original unity into three self-existent aspects. Ananda does not seem to depend on Sat. It does not seem to depend on Chit. Okay? Sat does not seem to depend on consciousness nor on other. It is self-existent. For we can experience a pure, causeless, eternal bliss so intense that we are that alone. We are only Ananda and nothing else. Or again, existence, consciousness seem to be swallowed up in it. The Ananda is so intense that there is no existence and no consciousness at all. You become that delight. In other words, the individuality also disappears because otherwise your experience, you yourself have become the delight. Existence and consciousness seem to be swallowed up in it. No longer ostensibly in presence. So the word ostensibly means apparently, okay? It means apparently, seemingly, but it is there, but it is seemingly absent. In Ananda, Chit seems to be absent. That's what it is, but it's there. Okay. Next, a similar experience of pure and absolute consciousness and a similar exclusive identity with it is possible. You can experience only an infinite consciousness, but there may be no Ananda in it at all. Okay? A similar exclusive identity with this is possible, and there can be to a like identifying experience of pure and absolute existence. So these are the three things possible, and that is the reason why I'm going a little beyond Swaram, though we have explained elsewhere. When you experience these three things separately, it gives birth to separate understanding of things. When you experience only the Sat aspect, you end up with the Advaita philosophy. Okay. When you experience the Chit aspect, okay, you end up with the Sankhya philosophy. You are Purusha and there is Prakriti separately. When you end up with the Ananda aspect, you end up with the Vaishnava theory of the universe is a play of the divine. So depending on what experience you are having in the spiritual planes, becomes the result is a philosophy which is different from each other. That's basically what he's saying elsewhere. Here he is not saying that. He is saying you can experience Sat separately, Chit separately, and Ananda separately. Okay? But to a supermind cognition, these three are always an inseparable trinity. The trinity means three in one. They seem to be three elsewhere, but they are really one. Okay? Even though one can stand in front of the others and manifest its own spiritual determinants. In other words, you can experience them, but they are really one. You can see them as separate, but they are really one. It's like somewhat like the cricket team, which is got 11 players, but they all play like one unit. They are one. And yet you can see the different things. That is possible stabilization. For each has its primal aspects or its inherent self-formations. Now he's telling you what each one becomes. The indeterminate Sat becomes this. The indeterminate Chit becomes determinates. So this is what he's explaining now. What they become in the physical world. But aspects are inherent self-formations. So, but all of these together are original to the triune absolute love, joy, beauty. So, for each has its primal aspects or its inherent self-formations. But all of these together are original to the triune absolute. Okay, triune absolute, the Satchidananda. Full stop. Love, joy, and beauty are the fundamental determinants of the divine delight of existence. Ananda becomes here in the physical world love, joy, and beauty. And he has told you earlier that Ananda becomes in the physical world, it becomes a psychic being. And so when the psychic opens, these are the three aspects that become prominent in the physical world. You start loving everything. You see the sky, you see the animals, you see the flowers, everything becomes, you love everything. It gives a joy also. And you start perceiving beauty everywhere. You don't see any ugliness anywhere at all. It's Ananda is the experience. Love, joy, and beauty are the fundamental determinants of the divine delight of existence. And we can see at once that these are the very stuff and nature of that delight. Then, what about the others? They are not alien impositions. The word is alien. Okay. The word alien means stranger. Okay. Maybe the etymology is alien is a tying together. And alien means no tie. Probably that's what it means. Alien means a stranger. Someone who is strange to you. Okay. So they are not alien impositions. They are not separate. That's what Swami is saying. Alien impositions on the being of the absolute of creations supported by it, but outside it. Okay? They are not. They are all one. They are truths of its being, native to its consciousness, powers of its force of existence. So too is it the fundamental. So too is it with the. So too is it. It means likewise. Okay. So too is it with. Okay. In other words, the fundamental determinant of absolute consciousness also is similar. That's what it means. So too is it with. Okay. You have to read with in this phrase. So too is it with the fundamental determinants of the absolute consciousness. They become knowledge and will. Knowledge and will are determinates of the indeterminate consciousness. Okay? Then they are truths and powers of the original consciousness force and are inherent in its very nature. This authenticity becomes still more evident when we regard the fundamental spiritual determinants of the absolute existence. Absolute existence, Sat. They are its triune powers, necessary first postulates for all its self-creation or manifestation. Self, the divine, the conscious being, Atman Ishvara Purusha. So you can, when you experience this Sat aspect, you can experience it in three ways. You can experience it as the Sat, okay? That's a Brahman. You call it the Brahman. Or at a slightly higher level, you experience it as the Purusha. The Brahman is the impersonal aspect. Sat, the first experience of Sat is impersonal. A vast peace and a no person there at all. Without, it's absolutely one single thing, nothing. Okay, just peace and calm. And if you go slightly higher, you experience it as a Purusha, and you feel that the Prakriti is separate from you. You separate yourself from your body mandal. Or you go to the highest level, it becomes Ishvara. So the experience of such is Brahman, Purusha, Ishvara. He is not mentioning here Brahman, but when he says self, it means that. Self, the divine, is the Brahman. The conscious being is Purusha. Okay? And he is putting the three things in separate words. Atman, Ishvara, Purusha. He should have inverted Atman, Purusha, Ishvara, but he is putting it in this way. Okay? Atman, Ishvara, Purusha. The three things. So very simple what he is saying in the para, that at the highest level, Sat, Chit, Ananda are all one. But in the physical world, they are separate. Consciousness can be without power. Consciousness can you see, or you can see only matter, and there is no consciousness in it, no power in it, no apparently no power, and no ananda in matter. Okay, but it is all there. So you experience them separately in the physical world, but at the highest level, at the mountain peak, they are all one. That's what he's saying. Simple. We go to the next. Huh? So who will read today? Yasmin is there. Can Yasmin read? Archana Di is there. How is your throat, Archana Di? Okay.
Yes, I can read.
Go ahead if we pursue the process.
If we pursue the process of self-manifestation further, we shall see that each of these aspects or powers reposes in its first action on a triad or trinity. For knowledge inevitably takes its stand in a trinity of the knower, the known, and knowledge. Love finds itself in a trinity of the lover, the beloved, and love. Will is self-fulfilled in a trinity of the Lord of the will, the object of the will, and the executive force. Joy has its original and utter gladness in a trinity of the enjoyer, the enjoyed, and the delight that unites them. Self as inevitably appears and founds its manifestation in a trinity of self as subject. Self as object and self-awareness holding together self as subject-object. These and other primal powers and aspects assume their status among the fundamental spiritual self-determinations of the infinite. All others are determinates of the fundamental spiritual determinates, significant relations, significant powers, significant forms of being, consciousness, force, delight, energies, conditions, ways, lines of the truth process of the consciousness force of the eternal, imperative possibilities, actualities of its manifestation. All this deploying of powers and possibilities and their inherent consequences is held together by supermind cognition in an intimate oneness. It keeps them founded consciously on the original truth and maintained in the harmony of the truths they manifest and are in their nature. There is no imposition of imagination, no arbitrary creation, neither is there any division, fragmentation, irreconcilable, contrary, or disparateness. But in mind of ignorance, these phenomena appear. For there a limited consciousness sees and deals with everything as if it were all separate objects of cognition or separate existences, and it seeks so to know, possess, and enjoy them, and gets mastery over them or suffers their mastery. But behind its ignorance, what the soul is in its seeking for is the reality, the truth, the consciousness, the power, the delight by which they exist. The mind has to learn to awaken to this true seeking and true knowledge veiled within itself, to the reality from which all things hold their truth, to the consciousness of which all consciousnesses are entities, to the power from which all get what force of being they have within them, to the delight of which all delights are partial figures. This limitation of consciousness and this awakening to the integrality of consciousness are also a process of self-manifestation with a self-determination of the spirit, even when contrary to the truth in their appearance. The things of limited consciousness have in their deeper sense and reality a divine significance. They too bring out a truth or a possibility of the infinite. Of some such nature, as far as it can be expressed in mental formulas, would be the supramental cognition of things, which sees the one truth everywhere and would so arrange its account to us of our existence. Its report of the secret of creation and the significance of the universe.
Okay, so as usual, we'll first read the summary and then we'll come back to the details. He is saying that Satchidananda are basically the indeterminates which become all triune determinates. He says knowledge becomes knowledge, knower and known. Okay. Ananda becomes the enjoyed, the enjoyer and enjoyment. Okay. So power also becomes all these three. There are always three things which are there. Okay. So this is what basically he is saying. So let's look at what he is saying. I'm reading out the summary to you. If we pursue the downward manifestation further, we see that Satchidananda dissolves themselves into triads. Triads, 3 in 1. Okay, a collection of 3, a triad. Okay. Then knowledge slits itself, breaks itself into knower, known, and knowledge. Love determines itself into love, lover, loved. Bliss expresses itself into enjoyed, enjoyer, enjoyment. Will wills itself into object of will, the willer, and the power of will. Self opens itself into object, subject. Self-awareness. Then supermind holds all these together as one single whole. The mind in ignorance sees the multiplicity. In the mind, normally our consciousness, we see enjoyer, enjoyed, and enjoyment. We see the knower, the known, and the object and subject. But at the highest level, they will all become one. And when object and subject become one, it becomes identity. That's why you have identity at the higher levels of consciousness. This is basically what he's saying in the paragraph. Okay. In other words, the principle of one becoming the many, and keep going higher and higher, the many start losing their importance, and the one starts becoming more and more important as you keep going up. That's basically what he's saying. At the highest level, only one. At the lowest level, infinite multiplicity. Okay. This is what he's saying in the para. But the language we have to look at. Okay. So we'll start looking at the language. Now he's saying, we pursue the process of self-manifestation further. Now, self-manifestation further means the involution, the coming down, the God creating the universe, that's a self-manifestation, okay? We shall see that each of these aspects of powers reposes in its first action on a triad or trinity. A triad is a collection of three, or a trinity, okay? For knowledge inevitably takes its stand in a trinity of the knower, knower, and knowledge. This is the lower world, okay? Not in the supermind. They become three. Love finds itself in a trinity of the lover, the beloved, and love. Will is self-fulfilled in a trinity of the Lord of the will, the object of the will, and the executive force. Executive force is using the word instead of the power of will. Okay. Joy has its original and utter gladness in a trinity of the enjoyer, the enjoyed, and the delight that unites them. Self, as inevitably appears and founds its manifestation in a trinity of self as subject, self as object, and self-awareness, holding together self as subject-object. Okay. These are the three things that come. Okay, self, object. At our level, there is subject and object. Even our own thoughts, we are the thinker, and the thought is separate from us. Actually, it's the same, but this is what we say. These and other primal powers and aspects assume their status among the fundamental spiritual self-determinations of the infinite. The infinite Ananda becomes these three, the infinite consciousness becomes those three, the infinite Sat becomes the object, subject, object. Okay. So these and other primal powers, these are only some of them, but he's saying that infinite things can happen. One becomes the infinite multiplicity. These and other primal powers and aspects assume their status among the fundamental spiritual self-determinations of the infinite. The infinite, which is indeterminate, molds itself and produces determinations of itself. In other words, the infinite becomes finite forms. Finite forms are the self-determinations. Okay. Clear. All others are determinates of the fundamental spiritual determinates. Now, fundamental spiritual determinates Satchit Ananda. Okay. Significant relations, significant powers, significant forms of being, consciousness, force, and delight. So they split themselves up into relations and powers and consciousness, chit, force, shakti, delight, ananda. Energies, conditions, ways, lines of the truth process of the consciousness force of the eternal. Now, imperatives, possibilities, and actualities. Now, this is very interesting. At the highest level, imperative, it is bound to become something. Okay, so there is the imperative. There is no escape. It will become the universe. But as it keeps coming down, that imperative becomes many possibilities. Okay, and those possibilities become actualities in the physical world. Okay, so again, if you think of the seed and the tree, this becomes, you can understand what it is saying. An imperative. In other words, a mango seed will produce only a mango tree. It is imperative. It is impossible for it to do anything else. The Satchidananda will become the world. absolutely 100%, imperative. Possibilities, but as you keep coming down, there are different possibilities that can occur. Actualities, then finally they become actualities. Now, when Sri Aurobindo is saying that this is going to happen, that is going to happen, he is getting glimpses of the imperatives. In 1920, he is telling to Puraniji, don't waste your time fighting the British. They are sure to, they will withdraw. So that's an imperative, it's bound to happen. But how it will happen? Possibilities, it comes on one level, possibilities. It won't be India will be free. It will become probably Pakistan and India. It will become maybe even Bangladesh, okay? So possibilities. And actualities, finally it becomes actually what is intended to be, or with the possibilities become the actuality. Actuality is the ultimate physical reality, are its manifestation. So this is very interesting. At the lower level, you can have glimpses of the imperatives. How is mother saying India will be free? In fact, she went to the extent of saying India is not going to be free, it's already free in the subtle world. Okay? This is what they said. In fact, in 1910, Srimli is writing in the Arya that Asia is going to rise and Europe will be on the decline. Europe and the West will be on the decline. Okay? So that was the imperative. And the possibilities, so many different types of possibilities. The actualities. This is the sequence of events. First there is the imperative, then there is the possibility, then there is the actuality of its manifestation. All this deploying of powers and possibilities and their inherent consequences is held together by supermind cognition in an intimate oneness. Okay? There are all the possibilities are there. That's why when you go to the overmind consciousness, everything is possible there. Okay? Those possibilities become actualities in the physical world, not necessarily all together, but in time. Okay? Something can happen, something else can happen in time. All these deploying of powers and possibilities and their inherent consequences held together by supermind cognition in an intimate oneness. It keeps them founded consciously on the original truth Satchidananda, and maintained in the harmony of the truths they manifest and are in their nature. They are truths that they are manifesting, but they are the truths that are in their nature. Okay? It is manifesting all that. There is here no imposition of imaginations, no arbitrary creation. Neither is there any division, fragmentation, irreconcilable contrariety, or disparateness. I think the verb is reconcile. Reconcile two opposites and make them compatible with each other. So irreconcilable, that which cannot be reconciled at all. In other words, the duality is in the physical world. Irreconcilable contrariety or disparateness. So he's saying in the spiritual, in the Satchidananda, in the supermind, there is no contrariety. They are all complementary aspects. Okay? That's what he's saying, complementary aspects. But in the physical world, they become, there is a fragmentation and a division, and they become even dualities. They become opposites. But in mind of ignorance, these phenomena appear. Which phenomena? Fragmentation, division, okay? Irreconcilable contraries, they appear. For there, a limited consciousness sees and deals with everything as if they were all separate objects of cognition or separate existences, and it seeks so to know, possess and enjoy them, and gets mastery over them or suffers their mastery. Okay, so either you try to get mastery over the circumstances or you suffer their mastery. The body becomes master of yourself. The soul doesn't have the power. Now this is very interesting what he's saying. When the supermind manifests itself, it seems to be broken up into different things. So why is it seeming, and why is it possible for a consciousness to again see the oneness even in the physical world? When your consciousness rises to spiritual planes of consciousness, you start seeing. It's very similar to I am seeing the world through my broken specs. Okay? The broken specs are the senses. I am experiencing the world through my senses. They are imperfect, so you can compare them to broken specs. I see all broken things. Okay, but the moment my consciousness becomes clear and I am not using senses, but I am using much better instruments of knowledge. Okay, I am using subtle senses, and even higher up, I am using sight and hearing. Okay, they are much better instruments. The broken glass becomes replaced by a full unbroken glass. Then I see the reality. So that's what he's saying. In the physical world, you see brokenness, you see the division, fragmentation, and therefore you see irreconcilable contrariety or disparateness. Okay? And you try to master the circumstances, but very often you can't. The circumstances master you. But behind its ignorance, what the soul in it is seeking for is the reality, the truth, the consciousness, the power, the delight by which they exist. What he's saying, all human effort is nothing but a wanting to get back to Satchidananda. Unconsciously perhaps, but you want more and more of knowledge, you want more and more of power, and you want more and more of enjoyment. All these activities a human being is wanting to do. He wants to know more and more. Very clear, science and yoga, both are wanting to know more. What about the power? Science wants power. Okay, so that is also, it wants the ultimate power. It doesn't know that it's seeking for Shakti, but it is trying to do that. What about enjoyment? Even our vital enjoyments, we are always trying to enjoy everything, but in the wrong way. So what Sridhar is saying is, even in the ignorance, we are really seeking for Satchidananda. Okay, but behind this ignorance, what the soul in it is seeking for is the reality, the truth, the consciousness, the power, the delight by which they exist. The mind has to learn to awaken to this true seeking and true knowledge veiled within itself. So, when we are looking for Ananda, you must realize that, oh, the way I am looking for Ananda is wrong. Okay, I must get rid of desire to be able to enjoy the reality. Desire is there, I will enjoy in the wrong way. Okay, because I am looking only for enjoyment in some things, but I must learn to enjoy everything. Then I have to get rid of desire, I will enjoy everything. Okay? Similarly, knowledge. I am looking for knowledge through my mind, but I must realize that the mind will never give me knowledge, so I have to go beyond the mind. So you realize these things slowly, that's what Shraddha is saying. Okay? So the mind has to learn to awaken to this true seeking and true knowledge veiled within itself, to the reality from which all things hold their truth, to the consciousness of which all consciousnesses are entities, to the power from which all get what force of being they have within them, to the delight of which all delights are partial figures. This limitation of consciousness and this awakening to the integrality of consciousness are also a process of self-manifestation, or a self-determination of the spirit. Even when contrary to the truth in their appearances, the things of the limited consciousness have in their deeper sense and reality a divine significance. This is a very interesting sentence, because even when contrary to the truth in their appearances, the things of the limited consciousness have in their deeper sense and reality a divine significance. I'll put this sentence in another way, which Sridhar himself has said. He says, even error is a companion of truth. Okay? Error is the handmaiden of truth. In other words, even when you make a mistake, it's only going toward the true path. Okay? Now, keep this in mind and read that phrase again. You will see that that's what he's saying. Even when contrary to the truth, when it is falsehood, okay, in their appearances, nothing is really false. You are seeking for something and you make a mistake. The things of the limited consciousness have in their deeper sense and reality a divine significance. Every mistake you make is intended for you to come to the right conclusion. Interesting. Every mistake you make, you are learning. So, they too bring out a truth or a possibility of the infinite, of some such nature as far as it can be expressed in mental formulas, would be the supramental cognition of things, which sees the one truth everywhere and would so arrange its account to us of our existence, its report of the secret of creation and the significance of the universe. This is what we have been looking for. We have tried to find out where is this universe coming from. So now that last sentence tells you that in the supermind you will find the secret of creation and the significance of the universe. Why was this universe made at all? So what is the significance? There is a divine play. He has plunged himself into the opposite of himself and he's playing a game. So, and he's playing a game through not one person, not two persons, not three persons, but infinite number of persons, and he is never satisfied with the game. One person becomes divine, another person becomes divine. Everybody must become divine. Infinite play. It goes on and on. So, in the supermind, you have the solution to the mystery of the universe, the mystery of your own existence. And you understand why then there is suffering in the physical world, why there is limitation. You understand everything. The significance of the universe becomes clear. Okay? So, 2 paras we did today, but this is how Sri Aurobindo puts different words, but you have to understand what he's saying. This particularly this one, he is saying, even when contrary to the truth in their appearances, the things of the limited consciousness have in their deeper sense and reality a divine significance. So, in the synthesis of yoga, the same truth he puts in different words. He says, error is the handmaiden of truth. Error is always guiding you to truth. That's what he's saying here in different words. Okay. Even when contrary to the truth, that means falsehood, mistakes, okay, in their appearances, the things of the limited consciousness, okay, our ignorance, when we make a mistake, have in their deeper sense and reality a divine significance. That's why we should never be afraid to make a mistake. We don't need to seek to make mistakes, but we can learn from mistakes. And reality, divine significance. Every mistake that you make, you are learning. It's a process of learning. Okay? 8:35. We have to stop here today. So see how interestingly Sri Aurobindo looks at the everything has got significance. Even the worst possible thing, the evil and the distortions and all the perversions, they also have a meaning. They are slowly leading you to the truth. We stop here today? Yeah. Okay.
Merci beaucoup.
Kiran Dada.
Okay. Okay. So.
Baru baru tu lemah.